Mandos, Mandos, this is the way. Hello, welcome to the show. You're watching Banter Boxes, and this is episode 9. And today's episode is going to be hosted by me, Mandalorian, the X-Wing Jesus. Down there, we have C3 Barlow, human cyborg relation of a protocol droid. And I didn't even read that this time. I remembered it.
Hold on, mate.
Over there, we have Ham Solo with the he's with the Banter Boxes buffet. It seems to be a standing joke. He's lined up all the biscuits and all the drinks on another side. So
not all the biscuits, just the nice biscuits.
He's not only responsible for the Banter Boxes buffet, but he's also responsible for smuggling quality meat products. There we go. Although he's just smuggling biscuits and tea at the moment. So there we go. So on with the show. So Rebels, I mean, that's pretty much loved by anybody that loves Star Wars, loves Rebels. And that, I think we're just going to be talking about Spectre Cell. So that's Spectres 1 to 6. So we'll count down through them, and then we'll talk about each character. And then at the end, we'll talk about who are their influences throughout the show. So number 1, we have Spectre 1 is Kanan Jarrus. So I'll give you guys the floor for this one. Who wants to talk about Kanan to start with? No one. I'll go for Kanan then. So Filoni called Kanan Jarrus the cowboy Jedi because he didn't complete his Jedi training, but he then goes, Ezra's a bit force sensitive. I recognise that. I'm going to train him. I'm going to be the responsible adult in the room. He is one of the 2 leaders of the Spectre Cell. So there's him and Hera. But like he isn't actually a Jedi Master until an episode further on in the series. So that's quite interesting because he's kind of just finding himself at the same time and rediscovering all of his previous teachings and that and imparting them.
Yeah. Well, when we meet him first, he's been, since pretty much a child, he's been hiding who he really is. He's trying to survive Order 66. So meeting Ezra, he starts to have to, he's starting to remember the Jedi teachings himself, and it starts to develop his character. Yeah,
and I think it's quite good the way that his gear is all set up. We've not really seen he's sort of got a dualist gear to him, hasn't he? He's got a pistol, and but he's only got the shoulder pad and armor on one arm, and the other arm's just completely bare. So that's kind of an odd setup for. I don't know what was he really when we first discovering him. That cell's only just got together, hasn't it? Really, but it's quite an odd setup he's got there as his armor and gear.
Yeah, I mean, he. If you've read any of the comics, his character is a smuggler. He's brought up by a load of scummy smugglers. It has his own shit, but you don't find that out unless you read the comics. So it's really interesting having this patchwork of gear, as you say, just the one arm armored. Very piratey.
Yeah, it's very piratey, but I think it's also inspired by fencers because it's like a fencing setup. But I mean, there's also quirks in all of the characters' armors, which I'm sure we'll come to in a minute. But it's just his is very weird because, regardless of what happens to him, regardless of where he is in the series, he's always seen wearing the same clothes. So you'd have thought they'd start to smell it.
Apart from the helmet comes later on, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure there was a season where he dressed up as an episode where he dressed up as a stormtrooper to infiltrate a ship with Rex. But that's
right. Yeah, fair enough. It's interesting you bring up fencing because, like, if you've ever watched any of the YouTube things where people talk about fighting with lightsabers, they actually bring up fencing as the actual style that would benefit the lightsaber the most because you're putting yourself at the furthest range and hit people with the end of the fencing thing.
Yeah.
That could be another episode for our Master of Swords Ty to actually come on. So that would be pretty good to see what he reckons of the styles of fighting for lightsabers and stuff would be. But anyway, I've digressed. So Kanan, yeah, I mean, what ship did he used to fly as a smuggler? Do we know that?
I can't remember. I'm sure it's like a Hawk, isn't it? Or I mean, if our X-wing has anything to do with it, it's a Hawk.
Yeah. So in the game X-wing, Kanan has literally only just come out, and he's flying a Hawk, an HWK 290, which is an extremely good ship in that format. But there we go. That's another little thing about Kanan. So, I mean, I really like Kanan. I thought he's really, really good. And all the characters I find amazingly good in it. There's a whole really rounded set of characters. So he goes on, and we find out his previous name because he's masquerading as Kanan Jarrus. His real name is, spoiler alert, Caleb Dume, which becomes apparent in season 4. So 4 seasons of Rebels, and there's lots that play out across the seasons. But there we go. And Caleb Doom is
maybe that's kind of a rebranding exercise. It's kind of like being called Patrick Smelly. You know, it's not a great surname, so you rename yourself to sound cooler, and then you dress up like a fencer to make yourself look like some swarthy swashbuckler. Makes sense to me. If I'm going to be a rebel or a pilot hanging around the outer rim, I want to make myself look as exotic as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. Over the 4 seasons, you really see his character develop. He starts, as we said, he starts off as this smuggler thief, and then he makes the ultimate sacrifice in the end. Spoiler alert for those who haven't seen it. And and he sacrifices himself to save his team, which is a very Jedi thing to do.
To be fair, he gets the roughest of the rough about the whole series, because in 4 seasons, he goes from, being a debonair kind of swashbuckler to being blinded by lightsabers, again, spoiler alert, to throwing himself into a fuel refinery. Again, spoiler alert. He has the longest journey out of all of them.
I should put a big thing in the start. Spoilers!
Yeah, okay.
I haven't seen it.
But to be fair, it's not like it's a recent show. It's been, it finished about, 3-4 years ago?
Yeah, something like that. But it's very, very good.
Oh, yeah.
You've got the whole blinding thing. And then, obviously, I think season 3, where he talks to that great big force being on the planet where there are Phoenix Squadron.
Yeah.
Which, again, it's only him that knows about that. I can't even remember what it's called, that unique force being that manages to take on the Star Destroyers and stuff?
Yeah.
Wow. Nice trick.
I think there we go. I think we've covered Kanan now. So on to Spectre 2. So we have Hera Syndulla. Now Hera, she's actually the daughter of another famous Syndulla in one of the other, I think it's the Clone Wars.
Yeah, Clone Wars.
Yeah, so she's the daughter. She's become a great pilot, and is basically the other leader of Spectre Cell. And I think she's the more logical one. She has that calming effect, the mother figure of the whole group. And I love her. I think she's just amazing in that. She's very clever, amazing pilot, and just that amazing calming influence. She then goes on to become a general at the end of Rebels, and then she makes an appearance in Rogue One over the speakers. Can General Syndulla please report to the ready room or whatever it was? And then we see the Ghost as well in the final battle of that. So it's really good to see how she progresses along, and we certainly know that she survives until the end of Return of the Jedi, along with Chopper as well. We'll get onto Chopper later, but what else is Quag is it is alluded to that they're a partnership at the start. Kanan and Hera, is that they actually become lovers at the end of season 4 although we don't see any shenanigans going on. But they do actually have a son together. So
yeah, I mean,
obviously that's born after Kanan dies.
the very first episode, she's referring to Kanan as love, or you know, and she refers to a couple other characters as their children. So she's kind of got that relationship from the very beginning with him. But as you say, it's never really put into focus until the very end.
Yeah, she always comes across as a bit of a den mother, you know. So that's her whole demeanor. The fact that she's the caregiver, the den mother, the one who looks after them all.
Yeah, very, very good character in there.
And she flew the first ever B-wing.
Yeah, and kicked ass doing it as well.
Definitely, yeah.
Which is another release for X-Wing.
Uncanny.
We're not sponsored, honestly.
No, but we should be. I was going to say that with her, there's not a ship she doesn't fly that she doesn't kick ass in. That's her whole shtick. You know, she flies an A-wing, kicking ass. Flying a B-wing, kicking ass. Flying a great big VCX 100. Oh yeah, there's ass kicking.
Yeah, I'm surprised she doesn't get into the Falcon at any stage. That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
We never know.
Never know. Never know.
But I think she probably flew the attack shuttle and the Shifty Pede, the second shuttle as well.
Yeah, go nuts. I think the only thing that does make me interested in things is that the new Cassian Andor show, what is coming out at some stage, is kind of set around that same sort of period. So you never know what they're going to drop next. They've already brought Ahsoka into the reel. Let's see when we bring the others into the reel.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be really good. Really good.
Yeah. So, especially her being a general and him being a spy. Just saying. Anyway.
Right, so on to Spectre 3 now. So Spectre 3 is indeed Chopper. So that's Hera's little nuisance droid. He's under my arm there. There we go. He's down there. Fantastic. Played by Dave Filoni himself. And he just loves to cause a little bit of nuisance and just in a bad mood all the time. Like I think you were saying the other week, he's like cranky old man. But you know, you could take it a load of different ways there. It could be, you know, naughty kid or however. But I think Hera rebuilt him because he was basically a mangled.
Yeah, I think she found him in a crashed Y-wing on our planet, didn't she, when she was a kid, and rebuilt him from then. Yeah. So he's obviously a byproduct from the Clone Wars.
Yeah. So she turned him into the robotic equivalent of that grandfather out of Steptoe and Son. So well done, Hera, rocking it. One thing that's kind of not terribly related, but there's the very last episode of the Clone Wars, the new 7th season of it, the very, very last episode where Ahsoka's trying to get out of the Star Destroyer. Again, spoiler, get the spoilers alerts out. There's another robot in there called Cheap. Not Chop, Cheap.
Cheap. Okay.
Yeah. Hear me out. Sounds exactly the same as Chopper, just as irritating as Chopper, and almost identical in every way to Chopper, apart from the fact it's called Cheap rather than Chop. So I don't know whether or not it's just another way for Dave Filoni to get himself a performance credit in the Clone Wars, or whether or not there was a whole line of really annoying mechs around about that time. And, you know, who knows?
There could be one called Chips.
Oh, that was it. Yeah.
But do you know why he's called Chopper?
E1-1P, isn't it?
That's it, yeah. So
yeah.
Designation, yeah. C1-10P. So it looks like, with that dash, 2-1 like an H. So it looks like Chop. So yeah, Chopper. That's where we get that from. But again, we see him in Rogue One as well, where they're on the base on Yavin and he's rolling across the screen.
Tell you what, I've seen that movie a dozen times and I've missed it every time. I've never noticed him in it.
You're too busy topping it like that. Oh.
He's in it for a split second. If you've got a DVD or you've got a Blu-ray, it's a bit easier than trying to do it on a screen, because you know you can press play and cycle forward a little bit easier using a remote control with buttons on it than with a mouse or a keyboard or a finger swipey thing. So yeah, it is possible. Don't expect much. He doesn't go and wave his arms around. He doesn't do that. It's like literally red-headed droid rolling slowly towards the base. Don't expect much.
Someone needs to comment with a timestamp for me, so I can just find it.
Well, I'll stick it on my list of things to do. I've got some time off coming up, so yeah, I'll watch Rogue One very, very carefully, and I'll let you know.
Definitely.
Brilliant. So, on to Spectre 4 now. So we have Garazeb Aurelios, so often known as Zeb. He's that one there, the purple alien. And I think he's the one who's been really oppressed by the Empire and has got the most grudge against them. I think one of those early episodes, they have Zeb fighting Agent Callus, don't they? And Callus is responsible for the slaughter of his people. So actually, where you have the annoying one it's based around, Zeb, at the start of Rebels, you actually have a really dark storyline almost straight away. And I thought that was quite a tough one to bring in so early.
Yeah. It's there's some really great episodes with his character. He thinks he's the last one. We eventually finds out he isn't. But it's that anger to Callus, and there's some great episodes between those two where they actually have to work together. Do you remember the one where they get stuck in the ice? Yeah. Just some great moments. And he's this child. Within the series, there's Ezra and Zeb, that kind of the two brothers that annoy each other all the time. They fight in there. And then, as I said, we got the two parents as well. So it's a great dynamic for the ship. Yeah,
definitely.
It is interesting though that apart from the fact that Chopper can't speak, he's also another grumpy granddad. Most of the time, he comes across like a grumpy old man, sort of like berating his lot. But at the same token, for the first 2 seasons, he does a lot, and he's very important. I think, if anything, the thing that's a bit sad is that towards the end of the show, they sort of fizzle out, run out of things to do with him, and his arc kind of diminishes. So it all starts becoming more about other members of the crew, and he's become less involved, which is a shame because I think actually out of all of them, I think he's one of my favourite characters. What you can see they've done is they've tried to create a sort of a broad analogue for Chewbacca with him. So you've got Kanan as Han Solo broadly, and you've got Zeb as Chewbacca broadly. If you squint, you've got a big beastie who's a bit hairy, and you've got a swarthy swashbuckler. I mean, obviously their characters are completely different, but as analogues, they sort of broadly fit that double act kind of thing. But then as time goes on, they both sort of diverge from that path and end up being completely different characters in total. And him just being like a Wookiee-like tall character, bit muscly that can talk, as opposed to go kind of becomes a bit different.
He does a little bit more than Chewie though, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, he's got prehensile feet. That
a little bit more useful as well. Chewie doesn't really do a lot.
I think you'll find that Chewie's the one that always gets them out of trouble by using some strange Wookiee technique for opening doors or getting a spaceship to move off. And it's not just punching it until it works. Although, I mean, Han does say punch it, Chewie, an awful lot, which does make you wonder if he's literally just hitting things until they work. No one says punch it, though.
It's interesting that you bring up comparing him to Chewbacca, because Zeb is actually the original design for Chewie.
Yeah.
So
really,
Ralph McQuarrie's design was actually Zeb, and Star Wars do this a lot where they use failed designs and go, "Wow, that one kind of worked, but we need a new alien. What can we flick through?" We'll flick through our little book and go, "Oh, we've got that one from 20 odd years ago that we can bring out." There it is, ready made. But it is a good idea, and it certainly worked because he could talk. So, yeah, and I really, like I say, I really enjoyed Zeb. Zeb was really, really good in those beginning episodes. But I agree with you, Ham, that they kind of ran out of stuff for him to do, and he just basically became the gopher, didn't he? Really.
And he ends up with kind of a double act with other characters that we may or may not mention, sort of like Rex, a bit of a double act there, or with even Ben Rao, bit of a double act there, and then a double act with Callus as well. So, you know, he ends up sort of like becoming a latch on to some other character at some stage. And what's funny is that the original sort of analog I mentioned, like Han and Chewie, kind of gets replaced more or less with Hera and Chopper. Whereas Chopper's not a Wookiee, but he does the fixing and doesn't speak, and she's the ace pilot. So, you know, appearances being deceptive and all.
Yeah. So with that, we're on to Sabine Wren. She is Spectre 5. She's a Mandalorian female character. When we first see her in the Mandalorian, she's not in the Mandalorian yet. Yeah. I expect she will be somewhere along the line. But when we first see Rebels, she is only supposed to be 16 years old. So again, she's more of a big sister to Ezra, who's probably 13, 14 or something like that. Yeah, and again, that it's another weird first that her big thing, she all the way through the whole of it, is she just likes spray painting everything. Spray painting stuff and blowing stuff up.
That's the bit I would have been more paying attention to, because, you know, pretty mural. Oh, hang on, what's that beeping noise? I think that the latter thing's the thing you want to pay attention to. But then also you're underplaying the fact that she's apparently a pilot and was in the Imperial Navy. And also, talking about analogues, here she is, basically a almost royal bloodline in Mandalorian terms. So basically she's a princess. Where else have we seen a princess hanging around with smugglers and villains and vagabonds? Oh yeah, there's Leia. So she's another kind of big sister, young princess kind of thing. And although thankfully, because it's a kids' cartoon, I guess they don't really push the romantic agenda on her from her to anyone, which is great.
It's refreshing as well, because if there is any romance or anything like that, that's Hera and Kanan's role, isn't it? So, and you know, they didn't overly push any of that, so it all felt quite natural and not forced, and you know, the whole thing
it was
really, really well.
Anything romance towards Sabine was always quite comical, because it was Ezra who had no chance. You know, this little kid liking this older girl.
I think they should have put that she was like well into Zeb. That would have been funny. But anyway.
So no, she's great. One of the first 2 episodes, she's got spray paint that blows up. She sprays her symbol onto the floor, and it just the stormtroopers get there and it explodes.
She invents a lot of stuff.
So maybe her painting isn't all artistic. Maybe she's setting traps to protect herself if she needed it.
If you're reading, if you're standing too close, boom! Oh.
But yeah, she's got some really interesting like stuff going on with her as well. Like for a brief hot minute, she owns the dark saber, except she doesn't own a dark saber. She just happens to have it in her possession because someone gave it to her, I think, which is why it could never really be hers, and she gives it away, which again causes problems because you can't give a dark saber away. Oh no! So yeah, she's a pivotal character in lots of parts of the lore of wider universe, expanded universe, specifically with Mandalorian. But it seems like she's always the bridesmaid, never the actual bride. She's always in the periphery, but not ever really a super central character.
She also responsible for one of the other major support characters for the background of Star Wars. Obviously not majorly in the films, but she is actually responsible for the defection of Wedge to the rebellion as well. So she breaks him out, and I think there's Cliven or whatever is it,
Kilby.
He defects at the same time, and they move over and start flying for the rebellion. So she's quite a major
Isn't
part
it called Derek, really? Isn't Hobie called Derek, really? But they call him Hobie because Derek's a stupid name.
Derek's don't run away. All I'll say there.
Yeah, you don't hear
Star Wars, but Derek's don't run away. There we go.
yeah, you don't hear of many Collins in the Star Wars universe either. I think there's missed opportunities there to bring back some classic names.
Indeed, there is. Or you just misspell them really, and that basically does it. So, so there we go. So that anything else for Sabine, because she was pretty influential on the whole thing when you consider Wedge. And the ace that he turns out to be in his Rogue Squadron and all that sort of stuff, that's pretty major thing to bring in. And like you say, the Darksaber as well, bringing that back to Mandalore, that's another major plot there that she's managed to bring in.
There's some great scenes with Fen Rao when she's training with the Jedi, and then he tries to teach her the way to fight as a Mandalorian using the grappling ropes and stuff to tie them up, and some great scenes, some great little snippets of the history of Star Wars in it. It's great.
I was also going to say, similar to that because she is a Mandalorian, she's got the sort of ubiquitous helmet for all Mandalores. I seem to remember her pinging down the viewfinder that she has. I'm pretty sure that's the first time we actually see in any media what that looks like in helmet form, because they do lots of cutaways to her eyes view with the whole sort of telescopy thing going on, and we see that happen again a lot in the Mandalorian show, like season 2 episode 1, where he's hanging out with a gunslinger and he gets a rocket pack and fires a rocket using that system as well. So actually she's got some tech going on that's quite cool. But I mean, really, I think they kind of played on the fact that she looks like a female Boba Fett, and maybe that's just something they used to help sell the show visually.
Yeah, it worked, didn't it?
Oh yeah.
So,
but I don't get as excited about Sabine as a lot of people do in our sort of line of enthusiasm when it comes to Star Wars things.
Well, classically, she painted a TIE fighter as well. Classic Rebels. Do you know what I mean? It was like, not seen that before, but we've never seen about 3 or 4 people cram into a TIE fighter either.
No,
another weird one. That was for me. That was the weirdest thing we saw in Rebels.
How many times did they squeeze 3 or 4 people into a TIE fighter? It happened every other episode. I'm sure I saw one today when they were capturing a fleet carrier, and they had like 6 people in a TIE bomber. It's like, really? That's up close and personal.
Well, they're very small, obviously. Little people.
Yeah, little people.
So, moving on, we have Spectre 6. So, that is the only one left. That's Ezra Bridger. So, he's basically the Luke Skywalker character of the team.
There you go.
Going by thumbs, whichever way he is, because this is all the other way around on the screen now. So, anyway, yeah, we first see Ezra, and he's a street urchin. He's very annoying, and you think, oh my god, I can't watch this. But in sort of, as he grows, you sort of warm to the character quite a bit, and the others mellow that annoyance out of his character. It's just pretty good to see early doors, because that would have been a bit of a shocker that it'd have been like that. I mean, he's there for the kids, but as a kid, we learn who the Spectre Cell are, because we basically meet him at the start, don't we?
Yeah, but then if you spin that back to similar sort of situation with the Clone Wars, in comes Ahsoka. She's kind of bratty and irritating to start with, and that soon gets whipped out of her. So I wonder if that's just a nice little narrative device that Dave Filoni in particular uses to sort of make his characters more universally appealing. I mean, certainly, not for research purposes, but because I've run out of things to watch, thanks pandemic. I was chewing through season 2 of Rebels again, and there was numerous episodes where you're watching him like deal with the Forcey stuff, and Ezra's quite mature in a lot of ways by the time season 2 rocks around. There's only 4 seasons in the whole thing, and halfway through it, he's already quite a character you can empathise with quite readily. Most of the annoyance is whipped right out of him before season 1 finishes even.
Well, I don't know. There's one particular thing that annoyed quite a lot of people in season 1 with Ezra, and that was
Oh God, yeah.
the energy catapult. Which
Again, to sell toys.
Yes, the merch.
Yeah, exactly. Never forget the merch. What universe do you think you're in?
But that was like, oh my God, have we got to sit through and doing this every episode because it's awful. But
That's right, when he gets his lightsaber. But then, even when he gets his lightsaber, he turns it into a pistol.
Exactly.
Not being funny, that is exactly what I would do with a lightsaber
pistol. I've got a lightsaber. That's a gun.
That's the best lightsaber ever.
Really?
That's really good.
It doesn't last long, but it's an ingenious idea. It's very very creative.
Well, I think it's absolute genius. But letting a teenager around with a laser gun is always going to end in misery. And he gets that stamped. Well, I mean, to be honest, he gets it destroyed by the best baddie in possibly the universe. So you can't be too upset about that. And then he comes back for season 3 with a new one. But I was going to say, actually, something I just remembered I was going to mention about Kanan, so winding back a little bit. One of the things he does is he always puts his lightsaber together. He always like takes it apart, almost like nervous twitch. And that's a really, really weird nervous twitch to have if you're a Jedi on the run. I guess obviously he wants to hide he's a Jedi, but why else would you be carrying around a great big torch
dangling from his belt, does he?
Yeah, but why would you be hanging around a torch with a what else is that going to be that you're going to hang around with? People are going to ask more questions about that, and also why you're only wearing armor up one sleeve. But these are details.
Well, classically, he's being taught by Kanan, and they come across Maul, and Maul goes, "Oh, I see an opportunity here," and there's a struggle between the two for Ezra, because obviously,
yes.
His potential is quite big. They both identify. If he didn't look like he had a talent for the Force, Kanan wouldn't have been interested in him the way he was, and probably would have just left him on Lothal as just a kid. But then
you see
it's Darth Maul that comes along and goes, hang on a minute, he's pretty good. I'll try and get him away there.
Yeah, you see some before the Mole starts coming. You see some great fight scenes with the Padawan and obviously the Master, where they use each other's force powers to throw each other. So one of them starts jumping, and they use the force power to make them jump even further. And the kind of teamwork that you see between a knight and his Padawan is really interesting.
Yeah, and it's a shame we don't see that in much of the the Star Wars stuff going forward, but what we're going to see there. We've just got a little bit of time to touch on some of the other influencing characters, because we've got Fulcrum. So Fulcrum is basically, it's a bit of a mystery, but spoiler alert, it is Ahsoka. He's the first Fulcrum. We've got less than a minute left on it. So that was amazing. I mean, for you, C3, that must have been great to see that happen.
Oh, I absolutely loved it. There's some great scenes. The whole Vader fight where she chops off his mask off, and you really see what you've got to love this character from Clone Wars, and you see where she is now. It was amazing. I loved it when that reveal.
Yeah. And
then, the weird thing between her in Clone Wars and Rebels,
we could cut out at any minute. So we got Agent Callus as well. There's a big reveal there, Agent Callus, and that's quite a big one to see him turn full circle based on what he did to Zeb's.
A lot of regret there.
So at that, we've got to wrap it up, guys. So the end of the show. Sorry, Ham. The end of the show. This is the way.
Mandos, the